Today, we are diving into a conversation that has been setting Nigerian social media on fire. Popular media personality Toke Makinwa announced that she's expecting a baby girl through IVF. She talked about her previous failed attempts and even depression. I was basically thanking God because she said she wanted to be a mother by 40 and God answered her. She said, God is never late, he's always on time. But not everyone celebrated with her. Popular and controversial commentator Solomon Bushi said, while she's free to express her joy, she should leave God out of it because what she did, according to him, or in his own words, is not God's standards. And that's where the storm began. On the surface, this is a story about IVF as single motherhood, but it is actually much more deeper than that. What counts as testimony? Can people claim God's involvement in a personal choice others see as unbiblical? And who gets to define God's standards in a world where science, faith, and culture are always colliding? For Toke Makinwa, this was not just science, it was faith. She had tried, she had failed, she had battled depression, she had prayed to God, she wanted to be a mother by 40. And when it finally happened, she credited God. For many women, our story is deeply inspiring. It says to them, your dream of becoming a mother don't have to die, even if marriage hasn't come. It pushes against a society that usually ties a woman's worth to being a wife first, and then a mother second. But to others, that is exactly the problem, because it separates motherhood from marriage in a way they believe God never intended. Buchi represents a conservative Christian perspective. His point is, IVF isn't the issue, marriage is. In his framework, God's design is for children to be raised within marriage. So claiming God's hand by bypassing that order is wrong or even offensive. This raises a deeper question. Is every blessing from God, or can we receive good things outside of His will? Let's pause here. The Bible itself gives us tension on this matter. The Bible calls children heritage from the Lord, which means every child, regardless of circumstance, is precious. At the same time, the biblical vision of family consistently ties children to marriage. Sarah and Abraham, Anna and Elkanah, Zachariah and Elizabeth. Messy realities, yet the Bible is also full of non-ideal births. Agar's child for Abraham, Ruth's child outside Israel covenant people. Even Jesus himself was born to a virgin under social suspicion. So God worked through stories that weren't standards. So the tension isn't new, it's just modernized through science. Now let's talk science. IVF is not witchcraft, it's not sorcery. It is knowledge. Knowledge that Christians believe comes from God. So does using IVF automatically remove God from the equation? Or is it a tool, like medicine, that God has allowed humans to discover? Some argue that if God did not want Toke Makinwa to have a child, then the IVF would have failed. After all, many married women have failed attempts that were unsuccessful. But others countered, just because something worked doesn't mean it has God's approval. Human beings succeed at all kinds of things outside of His will. So we come back to the real wrestle. Is the problem IVF itself or IVF outside of marriage? This story touches a nerve because it challenges entrenched cultural expectations. For women, it says you don't have to wait for marriage to validate your desire for motherhood. For some, that is deeply empowering. For others, it is threatening. For men, it disrupts patriarchy. If a woman can access motherhood without needing a man, what does that say for traditional structure of family and authority? For the church, it raises uncomfortable questions about whether we are too quick to dismiss testimonies that doesn't fit the box. So here's the moral debate. Is it sin? Is it iniquity? Or is it simply a personal choice? Well, the answer depends on the framework you adopt. Conservative theological lens. Yes, because it divorces motherhood from the marriage covenant. Providence lens. No, Because if God didn't allow it, then it wouldn't happen. Pastoral lens, it's complicated. God may allow it, but that doesn't mean it reflects His ideal. And maybe, just maybe, those three truths can coexist in tension. At the end of the day, Toke's story exposes the altars we have built around God's standards versus the lived realities of people navigating a broken world. It forces us to ask, do we only see God's hand in ideal circumstances? Or can His grace be at work even when people take parts that are considered to be outside of His order? Perhaps the real question isn't whether Toke should have thanked God, but whether we, as a faith community, can hold space for testimonies that don't fit neatly into our doctrines, while still calling people to God's vision for family. Because on the altar of culture and faith, the controversy reminds us that life is rarely clean, never simple, always demanding us to ask, where is God in this mess? That is today's altars and agendas. What do you think? Can a single woman's IVF journey be a testimony to God's faithfulness, or does it cross a line? Let me know your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.